Well, thank you. It's such an honor to be here, and it's a beautiful day. And tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day too, and I'm just so sorry that I'm not going to be able to be with you, but I'm actually going to be at the European Investment Bank trying to get some money for all of us. So, so it's for a good cause. And I will be here also for the cocktails. And so please, I tried to see as many people as I could and as many companies as I could, but if I didn't see you, I'm staying purposely afterwards so that I can see you, because it is truly my greatest joy and my greatest happiness to, get to know you and to get to know what you're doing. And, this was the panel that I chose. They said, what panel do you want to do? And they said this, this, this. I said, no, no, no. And then they said the entrepreneurs, and I said, yes. So this is my dream panel. And I just would like to, share a couple of thoughts going into this. I think I spoke earlier this morning very shortly. We really do all have the solutions in our hands to make this paradigm shift that the world and the universe is experiencing to make it happen. And we really need, last night, and I know that not all of you were there, but I talked about personal responsibility. And, lots of things can drive somebody to do great things, to change the world for the better. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's just ambition. But for me, it really is personal responsibility. I really do believe that every single person has a responsibility to make the world better, to contribute. And entrepreneurs are the luckiest people in the world. Because we're positive. We bring about positive change. And when you see a lot of the ugliness in the world, and then you come to an event like this, where everybody is working to create a solution to make the world better, we are truly just so fortunate. And I do think that we are now approaching the golden age of space, or shall we say a new golden age of space. And the world needs connectivity, the world needs solutions to climate change, and without this we will not succeed. But the only way that we can do it is through space, and the only way we can do it quickly is through space, is through the use of space. This is absolutely true. And also with entrepreneurs who are just going to break every barrier and actually don't even see the barriers. So we have here 5 wonderful entrepreneurs. I'm very happy that we have Wendy, who always took care of Peter Pan and the band. So Wendy, that's great, and we're so happy to have you. I am going to ask each of our entrepreneurs what their happy day is. Okay? Now, last night I talked about happy days. Happy days are when you have brought about the change, the fundamental change that you were hoping to do with your entrepreneurship and your entrepreneurial project. So I will start with Julien.
All right.
And please just introduce yourself and your company.
I was about to.
Yeah, good.
So I'm Julien Tallineau, originally from Belgium, and being incorporated right now in the UK for an Earth activation company. Basically, have been an employee for like, let's say 5-6 years, and realized that being an employee, you get access to a great amount of resource and technology, but at some points, I realized that everything that I've learned and everything that was available at that company I worked with within Kinetic Space, I could actually reuse what they do to bring it to a higher level with let's say, a dream of happy days, as you say, Candace, in a couple of years. So basically what I want to do, but I will probably come back to that, is turning Earth observation as a service. But coming back to the happy days, I have a vision, and if I manage to, let's say, from 5 to 6 years to make it happen, I'd like everybody to forget about satellites. The same way that basically when you use Google Maps, you don't remember that you use GPS satellites. I wish we could actually do the same for Earth observation. So right now everybody talks about, hey, I'm going to launch a new constellation. Hey, I'm going to do this, while everybody basically forgot that at some point it was, hey, I will launch a new GPS or navigation satellite. Hey, I will, and that was the big trend. And if I can achieve that, basically I would have managed to bring Earth observation in the common life of everybody. And that would be my happy days.
And that's a wonderful happy day, really the democratization of access to Earth observation for the common man.
Yeah, just see the planet as it is.
Yeah.
Like it is right now.
Wonderful. Okay, Patty, all the way from Australia. Though I have to say, my gosh, you know, they must put something in the spinach in Australia, because it's just amazing that we have so many Australians in space. So take it away, Patty.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Patty Neumann. I'm the chief scientist of Neumann Space. We're developing an invention I came up with as part of my PhD project at the University of Sydney on high fuel efficiency electrical propulsion systems that use solid metallic propellant to affect their thrust in space. My happy day involves effectively in-space resource utilization, people being able to go out into space, use things found in space to make things in space, so that space travel, space colonization, and the greater utilization of space is something that becomes a factor in wider human society. My happiest day for that? I'm a humble man. I come from rural Western Australia. I long for the day when somebody in orbit can get steak with chips, salad, and beer made in space from crops and cattle grown in space. Thank you.
Great happy day. I'll go with the steak. Okay, Wendy.
Well, I'm Wendy. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm the Chief Design Officer at Viridian Raven. We use Earth observation satellite data for risk assessment for forest managers worldwide. And my happy days, I see them in two different categories. First is personal happy days in the company, because we're the example of a concept that was developed during a hackathon, and after that we got into the ESA Business Incubation Program, and from there we just started growing and growing, and things are going very well. So the personal development are happy days for me, as growing as an entrepreneur and getting business knowledge as well. And considering space, Earth observation, we all want to create awareness of how Earth observation data and satellite data is being used in the everyday life. So yeah, it would be, for me, a very happy day if that also will happen with our application, which literally comes down to saving trees worldwide.
How many trees do you think you could save?
That is indeed a good question. I hope a lot worldwide. Our focus first is only pine trees, so yeah, if we can cover the entire northern hemisphere, happy day.
Okay, okay. And Viridian? What does that mean?
Viridian is the name of a blue-green color. You can see it in our logo, the green wings. And the color is based on blue, because we use satellites scanning from the sky, and we scan the forest green, so blue-green combination. And satellites are in different cultures a symbol for future prediction, and we do predictions as well, so we thought the combination fits perfectly for us.
Good, thank you. Okay, so Daniel, besides being from Australia, and besides, you know, still being of this earth, what is your happy day?
Yeah, thanks very much, Candace. So I grew up in Tasmania, a small island off the bottom of Australia, and got to university and didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. But I wanted to do something that would help people and have a positive impact on the world. And because I could do math, I quickly figured out that meant addressing existential risks and any threats to the world. And I decided that getting humanity off this rock would address several of those existential risks. I made a short list of all the things that could possibly pay for that, because there's no space agency in Australia and no big companies to join, so the system would never take care of us. And I made a very short list of things that might pay, and they included space-based solar power, tourism, and mining. The space-based solar power really needs mining, and I couldn't see myself as a tour operator. So after a very interesting journey, I now have the pleasure of running Deep Space Industries, which is an asteroid mining company. And every day at Deep Space Industries, we're moving the ball forward on being able to extract those resources from the asteroid, create that business that can afford to keep people permanently in space, and lower the cost for keeping everybody in space. These are my happy days.
Okay, great. All right. And Krzysztof.
Yeah. So my name is Chris. I represent a Polish company. Poland is a country in Europe, not close to Australia at this time. We work on GNSS, which is satellite navigation and Earth observation, plus integrated applications. So everything that involves practical use of satellite data here and down on Earth. So I think my answer would be a little bit more practical. I would like to see more awareness around the world related to space sector. That is not an oddity, that is not a kind of a rocket that explodes somewhere far away and it's extremely expensive, and it would be better to save, I don't know, maybe some trees. Let's use it as an analogy, because you can see how stupid sometimes such arguments are, that it would be better to use those resources that we are putting to the space sector to something that could be practical here down on Earth. But we are working on practical things. So that could be the answer, so that the understanding and awareness of the space sector and its benefits to humanity, economy, and global aspects, for example, climate change, would be much higher than it is right now.
Okay, so I want to already open up the session to you. And I think there's a microphone. Okay, wonderful. So we'll have 2 questions, please. Put your hands up. You're all entrepreneurs or funding entrepreneurs. So you have the opportunity, and I think, certainly entrepreneurs, are always alone. And which doesn't mean that they're lonely, but they are alone. And this is an opportunity to ask other entrepreneurs about maybe some of the challenges that you've been facing and how they would have solved it or anything. So please, hands up. No. Okay. If you now listen, you know what I'm going to tell you. If you don't put your hand up, I'm going to come to you.
But I would really like to ask
okay?
If
All
I
right.
may, I would really like to ask one question.
Don't worry, I've got you. Don't worry, I'm not going to forget you. I'm not going to forget you. All right, I'm coming. All right. If it was your worst fear that I was going to come and get you, it's happening. All right. Now, who is looking like they really want to ask a question but are afraid to ask the question? Let me see about this. I think you are. Okay, there you go.
I thought you were coming this way, so I was like, I saw you over there. She's coming here. So the question is, how do you overcome the shyness of asking for support in entrepreneuring, in starting your own idea, your business model? How did you start? How did you find your partners?
Thank you. That's a wonderful question. All right. All of you shy people, all right.
Yeah, so, sorry about that. How do you overcome the shyness? When you really want to achieve something and want to change the world and it's not working, you get over it pretty quickly because you're just determined not to let the world pass you by. Yeah, so figure out what you want and realize who can help you. And if you don't go and talk to them, it's probably not going to happen. So grab the world by the throat.
As an earlier stage of that, building your team to then start going out and asking people for money, use your friendship networks. As a student at the University of Sydney, I joined a large number of clubs and societies because I did not find appealing the idea of sitting in a small room and doing maths all day. So I joined history society, dancing societies, comedy societies, archery and home brewing societies. Yeah, it's great. I shot archery twice at the university, the second laziest sport that you can have in the university games in Australia. Second only to rifle. They lie down and don't have to pull arrows out of a target. But the point of this story, right? The History Society that I joined at university has a large number of people in it, and a lot of them stick around after they finish university, so that when I started getting some really interesting results and started talking to my friends over a beer at the pub, some of them were thinking, we could make something about this. Do you need someone to do this? Do you need someone to do that? How can I help? And we formalized a lot of this when we were putting together the company. Use your friendship networks. If any of you out there are still undergraduate students or studying anywhere and you're not a member of any of the clubs on campus, join up. Meet interesting, like-minded people, and you never know where it might take you.
Okay, so may I also ask Wendy, because she spoke particularly about her developing as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm.
Well, at some point you invested so much in what you're doing, because we started from a hackathon, and in the beginning it feels like a project, but after a few months you put in so much of your time, your energy, your frustration, your happiness, of everything. And if you need help, there's just some point that you think this just has to work. I have to get some help. I don't care how they think about me. Then I just need to get support, and there goes your shyness.
I'd like to come back to your arguments on the, so let's say, clubs and society. There's this university which you may have heard about called International Space University, and we refer to it as a space mafia. And if you haven't heard about it, well, we are everywhere, and we like to change the world anytime soon. So please Google that, International Space University. We will try to explain you and move further with you to let's say, make the world in general a better place, but a place where we can use as much space as possible.
And you know, I shared with everybody last night that I grew up, I'm the luckiest person in the world, and I grew up with you know, people like Vincent Cerf and also Joe Pelton, who was one of the founders of the International Space University, who my father always referred to as that nice young man. So, okay, it is your turn now, Chris, to answer the question and to ask your question. But I'm still going to have a question from you all too. Okay.
So first, to answer to this question, I think during my PhD studies there was the Entrepreneurship Society, which was among all the other societies was very, very active, and there was simply no time for shyness there, and you really have to be active. Sooner or later, no matter what, you really had to present yourself, present the results, present your team, compete against the other team, and cooperate with that team that you were being just competing against just a few minutes ago, and it very quickly became very natural. So it's very, very nice practice in which you can get the feedback, and it's very, very nice experience. So coming to the question, the worst day of your life as an entrepreneur. During the entrepreneurship days, what was the worst day of your life?
I was going to ask this. No, this is not fair.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. You cannot ask my question. This is my question. No, I'm joking. Okay, but this was one of the questions that I was going to ask. But before we take Chris's question, I also want to go back to that nice young man there who was so shy that he did not even put his hand up to ask the question. So, when I was going to Stanford, you know, I had 5 degrees in music, right? So I was studying, if you can believe this, I was studying computer music, electronic music at Stanford, and I was also studying early Renaissance and Baroque music, okay? And I was quite a hit with the Stanford Business School guys. Why? Because they thought it was really cool, you know, to be dating this, you know, classical musician, etc. And so one of them was doing his PhD in organizational behavior. And he was very interested. He always was taking notes. I said, why are you taking notes? He goes, because you're so creative. I just want to know, you know, when you get the idea. And I said, well, you know, all I want you to do is kiss me, you know. But he did give me a very good tip, because I like people. I like to talk with them. I like to see them. And I actually hated to talk on the telephone. And so what he told me is, Candace, when you talk on the telephone, just imagine the person in front of you and just speak to that vision that you see. And so if you have somebody who you like and who you feel comfortable in talking with, just imagine that the person you're speaking with is that person that you like. And with regards to asking a person to fund you, actually it doesn't happen that way. Usually it happens because people they're looking not for funding, they're looking for mentorship, or because they don't know. And I do have to say that's what we business angels really do try and do. You know, I do Skypes every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, you know, with anybody. And I mean, at the moment, the list is quite long, and so it's a long waiting list. But, you know, people ask me for help. They don't necessarily ask me for money. That comes usually from me. I will say, wow, you know, I really like this. I'm going to invest in you. But the first question is really asking for help. So I think what you were talking about, the saying, asking for help, you know, having a network, all of this is very important. So now we will come to Chris and Candace's question, okay? But I want to take it a little bit further, okay? But it has to be very short, all right? So I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes. So the question is, what was the worst day in your life, and how did you make it a happy day? In other words, as my husband says, when you get a lemon, make lemonade. Okay. So, and I'm going to give it to Daniel, because everybody else is looking like they're still thinking.
Okay, so February 1st, 2009, I got fired. I got fired from my own company. The CEO that I'd hired fired me. He then fired himself and everybody else. Doing a reverse takeover on the bottom of a financial crisis is not a great idea, and not the best way to get a listing. So that was a hard lesson from my first startup about business cycles. And you know, I'd put a couple of years of my life into that, and you know, we built up a small team. I was very glad in the following months we were able to find good jobs for everyone in the team. We were able to pay back all our creditors and really end the company in a respectable way. Keeping hold of the IP, we kept the company alive to hold the IP and did a lot of good things. I learned a lot about respect and the way people look at you and feel about you, how you behave during downtimes really does matter as well. And the startup was in Ottawa. Every time I go back, I still get a very strong response from the community there, which is really nice. I took a lot of lessons from that going forward. I learned a lot more about business cycles. I now have an approach to deep space industries and the other companies I'm involved with that I think is resilient to the kinds of things that I met during that financial crisis. So it was an incredible learning experience. It was incredibly tough. And it's helped me to go on to a lot more really good experiences and really good days.
I can so identify with you. I shared also last night that I would get kicked out of one company that I actually had to start 3 times, and it kept on coming, and you know, and then they would kick me out, and then company would go bust, and then I would come back and buy it, and then they would build it up again, they would kick me out, and etc. But I was like you, Daniel. If ever there were people, you know, who had lost their jobs, I made certain to go and get new jobs for them. And so, you know, 5 years later, when I was speaking with the Luxembourg P&T, you know, the director said, Candace, I'll never forget when you came personally and said, I need to make certain that these people have jobs. And it's a wonderful way for people, you know, because you're going to see people going up and you're going to see people coming down. And so this, you know, this fraternity or sorority of treating your talent and you know, making new entrepreneurs and having them be your new mentorees, etc. Absolutely. Okay, Julien.
Yeah, well, the worst day is very much related to yours because I was on the other side. It's very important. I mean, SpaceView Services is now being incorporated. So a few months ago, I had to sit together with my team members and co-founders and say, okay, now who is moving with me? And it's a really bad day when someone say, hey, I'm moving with you and I want so much of the company and I want to do this and this, and you know that this person is not there yet. I mean, that's the involvement in time, that's very important, I can tell you that. And the commitment and the experience is something very important because in space you sometimes look for millions. And if you don't show up and you're not ready, or only half your team is ready, then you know that you will have less success. So it's a very bad day when you have to tell your team member that you don't agree, that you say, no, I think you'd be the best employee ever. You'd be great. You would spend hours and nights, but I don't think you would grasp, let's say, the entire thing yet. And that's very important to say yet. I mean, you trust the people you're with. You put a lot of, say, confidence in the accomplishment that they will do in the future. But if you need to present the team right now and you say, sorry. So that was a very bad day, and that happened actually last week. That's fine. We had long discussion. But your question is tough because how do you turn that into a happy day? So I think the only thing I can recommend in that situation is that first you highlight all the good thing that the person has done. That's something which we have to acknowledge, that when we start a company, we start after hours. And everybody with you will work after hours. So if you don't at least acknowledge all the work that has been done and all the time that these guys have spent on your idea rather than watching TV or just spending time with your girlfriend or boyfriend, then you're going to piss people off, and people will come back to you later on and say, yeah, this guy is really bad guy. So spend the time to talk and try to understand and actually try to make sure that you really say and you commit to give a better future. It's for now, it's a no, but you know, the company will be incorporated, and I can write on paper right now, and I can give you whatever you want, but you'll be the best employee, and I want to make sure you stay the best employee because an employee is the blood of the company.
I think you know, just for yourself, I go back to this personal responsibility, because it's personal responsibility to your team, to the universe, but also to the vision. And so you are, you know, what you have done was serving the vision, and you know, and it will prove out to be good. Patty.
Well, I haven't really been doing this entrepreneur shtick for particularly long. Most day while I've been doing the entrepreneurial stuff, 20 hours in the lab and the lasers kept breaking was one of them. Flying over here, the day was actually 50 hours long. That was a rather harsh day. I'm afraid I can't really add much to this discussion at this point.
We hope it never comes. Okay, Wendy.
Well, in our company, the worst day happened about 5 months ago. We had lessons or classes in business, etc. We prepared very well, and we thought, now we are ready to talk to potential customers. And we talked to people in one country, and well, yeah, we provide a satellite monitoring system. And in the first 5 minutes, they said, "Yeah, we got that covered. The entire country offers that for free." And we were like, "That's everything you don't want to hear, but everything you need to hear." So yeah, that was the worst day. We almost lost hope for a second. And we made it in the happy day the week after, when we talked to another country, and they didn't even know that we could see the Alps from space. So we were like, so, yeah.
Great. So one person's not good luck is another person's very good luck. Yes, okay. And Chris?
I think that for me and for my team, the worst day was when you, for the first time, learned brutally that the most expensive work in the world and in your lifetime is that one that you do for free for the others. So which means that for a partner that will never pay you back, and you really, really put a lot of effort, a lot of work, you gave sometimes confidential data, and then suddenly it turned that they're not going to pay to you. Just because, well, they would like to say, thank you very much for all your data. Now we can follow on, now we can go on our own, and your services are no longer required. So it didn't happen in our case once. It happened a few times. Each time it was kind of a beating, but it gives a kind of a understanding that sometimes the business is quite brutal, and you really, really have to be tough, and you really have to understand that you have to be ready for this. So right now, we implemented some risk reduction measures. For example, if someone wants to work with us, but we are not that sure, let's start from something small. If they really are not going to pay or exchange information and provide what they would like to do, that risk, then that mistake is going to be minimized, just because we are aware of our experiences from the past. So I think all those bad things that happened in the company, they can be turned into a good experience.
You know, I think you're absolutely right. And this is something also, you know, for entrepreneurs, and I've also, you know, learned the hard way. Every single time you write a concept paper, an idea paper, whatever, even if you think it's something small, put your name on it, okay? Put your name on it. And if somebody takes that idea, and sometimes they will, get a lawyer and sue them, okay? Now this is not very European, but let me tell you, because we you know, here in Europe, we all collaborate and everything, but the fact of the matter is that recognition of intellectual property and reward of intellectual property is the heart of entrepreneurship. And Europe needs to celebrate its entrepreneurs. It needs to reward them, and it needs to recognize them. It needs to make champions out of them. And it is not a committee that is going to change the world. It is an entrepreneur who's going to change the world. And that takes a lot of assumption of responsibility, because you know that without that, the world isn't going to be changed for the better. Okay, now, I'm hoping, oh, wonderful, I love it. I'm going to give you a kiss. Okay, here you go. Take it away.
How's it going, guys? I got a question. So we are all entrepreneurs, and we're very ingrained and excited about a product or idea or technical obstacle that's been solved. And you're trying to approach to investors your idea and all of its applications.
Put it closer to your chin.
Or implications that it has both short-term and long-term. So when it comes to approaching banks, if it's an institutionalized way to get funding, or private investors, what focuses are you looking at when you're presenting forward a product, whether it's on the minimal level or if you know that the customer wants to see it long term?
Can you phrase the question one more time? Because I'm not sure I've understood.
When it comes to approaching investors or banks with your idea and you're really passionate and motivated about it, like you know what you can do with it short term and long term, what's the middle ground to getting your point across?
Okay. Banks don't invest. No, I'm joking.
Whatever.
But they really don't. Okay, but investors in general. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
Well, anytime you actually want to meet an investor, you prepare way in advance. You want to know what he eats for breakfast. I mean, I personally look on Twitter, I look on Facebook, and I look precisely to what company he has invested in, because that's the closest partner who, I mean, he was bothering them like crazy. I mean, he has made their life a hell before, so they did better know him. So the best you can do, I think, to get to know an investor before you actually meet is to talk to the investee. And a very, let's say, widely spread, but let's say, idea or understanding of the entrepreneur is that an investor is not another one. They are investors you don't want to work with. And usually, let's say in the space sector, we're all engineers, so investors are like these people, very wealthy, and you just need to come with something, and you know, they're all the same. They are not.
I'd like to build on that, actually. Do your homework. Figure out what makes them tick. Everyone in the world today has some sort of emotional connection to something. A large number of people have some degree of emotional connection to space. For evidence of this, have a look at all the responses when they had the Curiosity lander going through its 7 minutes of terror on the way down to Mars. All the responses to the beautiful pictures that came from Pluto. The people doing various animations about the heart on the sunward face of Pluto as the probe was moving towards it. All these things, they show people's emotional connection to space. They love space. When you're approaching somebody to invest in something in space, figure out which part they like best. Have a look at their Twitters, any publicly available documents you can find, any shareholder meetings of which the minutes have been published. Figure out why they do what they do. Figure out what makes their heart beat, and you're already halfway there.
Anybody else want to chip in? No? Okay. So, you know, having been on both sides, just a couple of things. So, you know, I always think big, because quite frankly, it's just as easy to, you know, to think and do big as it is to think and do little. So I always sell the vision, but the vision which shows a return on investment. I have had, and I'll never forget, you know, one of the companies which I went to somebody and I said, you know, would you invest in it? It wasn't my company, but, you know, would you invest this? And it was a banker. He says, Candace, this person has put this was when I was just getting into investing. This person has put a business plan for 5 years, and it never shows when we get back a return on our investment. You know, people forget, when you invest to get a return. Now today, that might mean money. It might mean an improvement in the climate, so what we call impact investing. It might mean an improvement on a society. But you need to have a return to anybody that you ask for that hard-earned money of theirs.
But Candace, how much return do you want?
First of all, you know, I do want to see the return. I really do. But so in my investing side, and because I do like working with entrepreneurs, very often I will probably see the return even more than they will. Because I was just speaking with a young lady here. Where are you? Are you there? You're the one doing the mosquito thing. Are you here? Christina. Yeah, Christina. Can you raise your hand? Is she there? Okay. Anyway, so she said, well, you know, I think we're going to go now. She has something to detect where the mosquitoes are for dengue and all of this stuff, Zika. There you are. Okay, wonderful. Okay. So I said, okay, even if it is an app, I'm interested. But I told her, I said, look, so she's going to go and talk with the tourists. I said, what you really need, because you have half a solution here, what you really need to do is you need to go to the companies who make the mosquito spray and who make the drugs to treat these sicknesses that are coming from mosquitoes. And you need to get a royalty from every single one of those companies that each time they sell their product, they also are selling a exclusive use to your app. So, and you will get a royalty on every single product that is sold. So I do see the return, even when the entrepreneur doesn't, okay? And you can have a short term and you can have a long term, but you must have some type of return. You must bring about some change.
So there's no number, like
yeah,
10 times or 8 times, whatever you bring.
The unfair advantage, okay, now, now we're switching roles here. All of a sudden, you're becoming the moderator. Okay, this is fine.
I say that because engineers don't have a clue about return on investment.
Okay. So, the unfair advantage, which, we call 10 times better, 10 times cheaper, 10 times quicker, 10 times more performant, whatever, but that is an unfair advantage. And that is what the entrepreneur needs to have to attract an investor, to attract somebody who's going to put in their own money. The return, so many times, and my dad, always used to say, valuations are in the eyes of the beholder, or valuations are in the eyes of the investor. So, you might come to us and say, oh, we're going to have this X, return. But, that's hardly ever the case. And usually, though, and this is why it is very important, and why you do have venture capitalists, and why you do have business angels, they will work with you to help maximize your return. We know that you are not as expert in that. We are. This is what we do. And we see this as a mutual working together. And I think every single good venture capitalist, every single good business angel I know does do this. So anybody else have, so we answered your question or started to answer it? Okay, it's a long discussion. It's a long discussion. Okay, I feel like Pocahontas. Okay, so do we have another question here? No questions. Okay, my gosh. All right. Oh wait. Oh, there we go. All right. Olympia. Great. The next German woman astronaut. We've got to. Hey, come on.
We've got keeping this secret, Candace. Now everyone knows that I applied.
Oh no! I'm sorry. Chatham House rules, everybody. Just like last night, Chatham House rules. Okay.
Sorry about my voice. So 2 questions. First, biggest lessons learned through your entrepreneurship.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
Yes. So first, lessons learned throughout your career as an entrepreneurship. And second, for new funding entrepreneurs, first 3 important steps.
So now, for the entrepreneurs, please, the lessons learned. Maybe the biggest lesson learned?
Yeah, the biggest.
Yeah.
I think time. It's going to take more time than you really think. And you are going, even if you are work overtime, late in the night, for 26 hours in a day and probably 8 days in a week, it's going to take more time than you think. Just because of those tiny errors, tiny things that you have to correct, and you have to be aware of them. So just whenever you plan something, just be just completely sure that you add 25%, 40% of additional time and resources just to be completely sure that you can correct some of those errors, just in case.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you on this. Okay, so I agree with you, time, absolutely. For me, I would have said time in the sense of urgency. You must, you got to get out there. You've got to do it. I've got to make this happen. Second thing is, here again, my dad. My dad was a wonderful guy. My mom was a wonderful woman. But since my dad was in entrepreneurship and venture capital and everything, he always said, the best is the enemy of the good. And so, you have to yourself know that. But the worst thing, of course, is just to keep on, are you spending 90% now to create, to correct the last 1%? So, yeah. Okay, Daniel.
So there've been a lot of lessons.
The biggest.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that the soft skills are the hard skills. The people skills are what really matter. You're trying to build a team because if you're trying to achieve something big, you need a lot of people to come along with you. And for an engineer, for someone who didn't grow up in an environment that gave me skills of people management and those kind of things, that was one of the hardest things to learn, and is something that I'm still learning, is that it's all about the people. It's about the people you can surround yourself with and inspire to come along on the journey that you're making.
Yeah, I can continue on that, because my biggest lesson learned is talk to your customers. Really, everything depends on your customers. Every decision that you make is depending on how your customers feel about what you're doing. So,
biggest lesson I can talk about is practice your patience. You'll, as mentioned, things will take a long time. You'll get your business plan sorted. You'll identify people who want to approach for investment. You'll get your technical stuff sorted, but you still have to approach the people, utilize the people skills to actually go up and talk to them, and then they're going to need to have a think. They're going to want to think over what you've got, have a look at what you've given them, talk to other people to establish your technical bona fides, how much market really is there for this, and that's going to take some time, and they're not going to be telling you what they're doing all the time, so as far as you know, they're not doing very much. And it gets really stressful, but you have to remember to be patient. The occasional reminder email is okay, but don't make yourself too much of a nuisance. If you're being a polite nuisance, sure, no worries, but don't really get
so you're
on
going to
their
be
skin.
challenged on this by Daniel.
Yeah, I find I spend most of my time practicing impatience. I've been described as impatient to the point of success. And striking that balance, is important.
There's one thing that usually entrepreneurs forget, is that when you have a girlfriend, or no, I'm serious, or a boyfriend, don't forget them. I mean, they're the one that are sometimes at home earlier than you, and it's a huge, hard lesson to learn that when you got back at home, you also have a life. And that's important, because if you forget that, then you may put that in danger, and then you're not a good entrepreneur anymore. You may achieve great success, but being alone, it's not that, let's say, good in the long run. So I can only but advise, make sure you go back at home sometimes.
You have to have somebody who's going to be proud of you and be there with you on that happy day. Are there any people in the audience, entrepreneurs in the audience, who would like to share, there were two questions. Okay, but before we go to that, are there any lessons learned from entrepreneurs in the audience that they would like to share? Okay, I would share one before we go to the question, and that is, the name of this conference is Disrupt Space. And when you disrupt, you are usually disrupting the status quo. And when you disrupt the status quo, you have enemies. You have people who are trying to literally destroy you. And what I learned when I was doing Astra, which was going to, they thought, destroy all of the government-backed broadcast companies in Europe, that was going to destroy all of the government-backed manufacturers in Europe. Believe me, Mr. Mitterrand said that woman is going to sell Europe's skies to America. And he would not shake hands with the Prime Minister of Luxembourg. Now, I was fortunate because the Prime Minister of Luxembourg did something, actually 2 Prime Ministers of Luxembourg in my life did something that an entrepreneur who is truly disrupting needs to have, and that is protection. When you are putting in danger the status quo, what they think is dangerous. Of course, it turned out none of this was. It was the best thing that ever happened to them. But you need a protector. You need somebody to fend off all of the naysayers. The Prime Minister never ever told me that Mr. Mitterrand refused to shake his hand. I had to read about it in his, biography. So if you are disrupting, if you are truly disrupting, you're going to have people. And I've heard throughout this conference, and I know a lot of you, may not say it publicly, but what you are doing may very well be disrupting the existing satellite and space companies. And what I would tell them, and I will be your protector, because what I will tell those people is that they must absolutely work with you. And certainly the example of Airbus and the example of ESA being so present here in OHB, these are people who are going to win because they're going to be protecting you. Okay, so another question, or another person had raised their hand, and I haven't forgotten about the funding, but we'll come back to that. So this lady here, please. And then over here is, oh, yes, oh, good, now we're getting some traction. Okay.
It was more...
Can you put your...
Yeah, is that better? Okay. It was more of a kind of question around how is the best way to approach a mentor, to be mentored or to be a mentee. We've got an amazing room full of talent, experience, hustlers, people on the sidelines. What is the best way to kind of approach people and kind of have that ask, especially in an opportunity like this?
Come up to them. Come up. Seriously. Every time I go to a conference like this, I know that I'm going to, be asked, will you mentor me? Will you, and if I'm interested, I will. If I'm not interested, I will tell them. If I don't have the time, I will tell them. But one thing for you all to realize is that I am just as interested in getting to know you as you may be interested in getting to know, some of us. So, the best way to do is just ask. And Mr. Shy, just think this is your best friend, and you're going to ask your best friend. Okay. We have over here, please. Oh, good. This is so much fun. All right. I think it was because I kissed the guy who asked the first question. I'll kiss you all afterwards. No. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to say something because you asked...
Can you say your name, too?
My name is Nicholas.
Okay.
And you just asked the question if there are some entrepreneurs in the room that want to share some advice. And since we're in Bremen here, I want to share this advice because, in my opinion, a founder of a startup is like a captain. Yeah? And he gets a lot of advice from various people, and I think this is happening here also to many startups. and the advice is always contradicting. Yeah? And I think you as a founder, you need to stick to your vision. You need to handpick basically the advice, and then kind of select the wind that is coming from the south, the west, the north, or the east to get to that island you want to head to. Yeah? So keep that in mind. That's very important.
It is very important, and also in our business of being a business angel, there are a lot of hidden agendas. So watch out for the hidden agendas. These are people who may not have succeeded in what they had wanted to do, and so they see you, the founder, as perhaps achieving that. They may think it's cool because they want to invest in space or be a mentor. So you're absolutely right. You have to be true to yourself. It comes back, I think, to that personal responsibility, the responsibility to your vision and making it happen. Okay, we had, yes, and oh, wow, this is so much fun. Okay, all right, good.
Hello, my name is Frederick, an economist who's also all into space. My question is for basically everyone. What do you hope to get out of this event yourself? And what would you like to, what have you hoped to get out of events like this that you would like to get in the future if you could?
And maybe we'll take the other question because I think then we'll combine it and yes, and then have one final statement from our entrepreneurs.
Hello, I'm Angeliki. So my question is that I have noticed the last couple of years in Silicon Valley, there is a trend of venture capitalists focusing on companies that have very design-centered culture, not design as a graphic design, but more like human-centered approach. And I was wondering if this is starting to become a trend also here in Europe, and also if you believe that this approach, the design thinking, could have an impact on the space sector as well. Like, what's your opinion on that? Thank you.
Great. So we will have our final statements to the question from our friend the economist and from our friend the design. And we'll start with Julien, or we should maybe start with Wendy. Let's start with Wendy. You're a designer, okay.
Yeah, well, for me it's been a very interesting journey coming from the Art Academy and going into a technical world full of men. So, yeah, I hope it's going to have impact, because what I also focus on as a graphic designer, or what I find interesting as a graphic designer in the space sector, is how we can translate these space missions or technical systems into conceptual or creative, in a creative way that communicates to the public, the people that are not into space. So yeah, I'm really hoping it's going to become a difference, or it's going to make a difference. And
what you want to get
the
out of
first
the
question was?
What do you want to get out of the conference?
Oh yes. Well, people who already talked to me might know I'm looking for networks in the forestry sector. So networks.
Daniel?
Yeah, thanks. So to answer Angelique's question first, I think that the VCs in Silicon Valley are very, very good at funding commercialization. If you have a technology already, they'll fund market risk, not technology risk. And to get to markets, you want to have a well-designed product, especially if it's a B2C play. And so design is very important then to getting to your market. For those of us who have a B2B play, that's sometimes less important, but it depends on exactly what the product is. So in the space industry, a lot of what we're doing tends to be more B2B. There are distributors, there are software apps on the other end that need a lot more design. And you have an interface to both consumers and to business. I'd be interested in your thoughts on how important design is for your business customers.
I think it's very important because now that we've talked to customers, I know what kind of people I have to deal with, and I know that they are most of them are over 60 and not very technical. So your user interface has to be comprehensive immediately. And I always think when I'm working on it, like I place myself into a customer and I think, don't let me think. Like everything should be immediately, easily understandable.
Well, just to have...
Oh, just Daniel, just real quickly, what you wanted to get out of the conference? Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. So I came to this conference to meet entrepreneurs and to get a feel of what's happening in Europe and see what the scene here is. Admittedly, deep space industries play is a long-term play. In 30 years, we want to be building cities in space and providing all the material and equipment to make that happen. That's a platform. It's only going to work if there's an in-space economy that's created by a lot of other entrepreneurs. So a lot of what we do is to look at entrepreneurs, find out where things are going and how we can encourage people to work on things that are going to become markets for us, how we can tap in and serve them and accelerate what they're doing with a supply of materials in orbit. So this kind of event and encouraging entrepreneurs is really a big part of what we do as a company. Effectively, from a cold business perspective, we're mitigating market risk here in trying to create those markets and to bring people along with the vision that we have. So that's the first one. And then every event that we go to, you mentioned networking, to find networks in the forestry industry. I mean, is this the right conference? And the answer is yes. Every networking opportunity has those opportunities. So I could run down the list of technical problems we're trying to solve and regulatory problems and financing problems and all of those things. It's amazing who you will find in this room who has access to a conversation that's going on in the UAE that could impact regulatory environments, or a new fund that's being founded in Eastern Europe that might be interested in investing in space, or a new opportunity to network with entrepreneurs in Spain, perhaps, where there's another conference similar to this. So the networks are, it's the network effect. It really is the people outside this room that you can access by the people who are inside this room.
great. Chris?
Millions. Well, let's say it openly. All of us, if we are working to generate profits, since we would like to generate profits, no matter if they are going to be small or big, we are still going to look for profits, and that's what entrepreneurship is also about. It's not only about giving your time, but also having something in return. And you have to remember that sooner or later it will be about money and it will be about profits, because for those money you have to employ people and you have to, well, ask them to work for your vision or all of those ideas that you would like to have, and they will ask, what will I have in return? And then the answer is, of course, millions.
Great. Okay. And Patty?
So I'm going to answer the question from the Economist first. Two answers. Personally, I was hoping to come along and talk to a large number of fascinating people, and I've done so. There's been some really interesting discussions and some interesting contacts made. Professionally, I'm hoping to be able to tie people down to invest some more in the company, and those conversations that I had personally have helped to make this professional goal happen along, because networking is an important part of these sorts of meetings. As for the design consideration question, being neither European nor someone who's ever been to America, I'm not particularly well qualified to answer this. I'm an engineer who likes to make stuff in his spare time. For me, form tends to follow function. If the function is to be something that looks attractive, to be something that is beautiful, obviously its function is to do so as well. So form and function have to be united in that way. Beyond that, I can't really answer the question. I'm very sorry.
Julien?
Yeah, so I'll try to be quick. On the first question, there's one very important step when you're an entrepreneur and you have your startup, is to test yourself. So you have been talking to your customers, you've been talking to your partners, you've been talking to the financing guys, you've been talking to your engineers, but you have not been talking to everybody else. And there's still probably 1,000 questions to which you have not been asked, because everybody is aware of your product in a maybe greater amount of details, but there's always the stupid question which you never thought about. That's what I'm here. I expect to get questions. I cannot find an answer yet. So, and actually, I thank you guys all for these kind of questions. Then on the design, let's say I see the design as a vehicle to express your ideas. It needs to be simple, it needs to be graphical, it needs to be colorful, it needs to vehicle its joy, and it needs to vehicle, let's say, something which make people happy at the end of the day, and that's independent. I think whether you're in Silicon Valley or in Europe, or maybe the approach is different in China. I would not say it's ever the same. So I'm very curious about actually how design is applied in China. But I'd say design is the vehicle you use to express your idea, and that's independent, let's say, whether you're here or in the US.
Wonderful, thank you. So I just did want to get back to the question from Olympia about funding and you know, what is the best funding. Let me tell you, as an investor, if you are bringing, you the entrepreneur, are bringing sales, that is your best funding. If you're bringing traction, an investor is interested in you. But it's always having to do with the take-up, you know, in the market. We are market-oriented. If your vision is gaining a lot of traction in the market, that's fine too. The design, and here again, I've been really, really struck being at the conference today about a story that actually, when we were first starting SES Astra, one of our first investors was Lego. And Lego had, they thought that they could transfer the design and the perfection and the precision of their Lego bricks to space, to applications in space. And I recently was talking with the Kirkby Foundation, who was the family of the Lego. And I said, look, you know, you did that 30 years ago, and now there's this new renaissance. And seeing what all of you are doing, and somehow it is all very much, you know, module and bricks and precision and design, you know, I'm going to go back to them and say, wow, you know, now is the time for you really to invest in hopefully what we are creating, which will be a European, fund, you know, to invest in space. And you know, already here at the conference, I've been able to, advance on that. I think it's also fun to point out that actually my predecessor, Anthony Clark, as the EBON president, he started now Seraphim Space Fund. My immediate predecessor, Paulo Andres, has started the Portuguese Space Fund. Our first president of EBON is working together with me, Peter Jungen, to start the Innovation Europe Fund. So, you know, it seems like the presidents of EBON are really, you know, have this commitment to space. I would like to, and I'd like to work now with Lego and the Kirkby family, because I think we could do something really fun together. I would like to thank all of you. What I got out of the conference was exactly what I was hoping. I love meeting every single one of you. I love hearing your stories, seeing your solutions, you know, sharing with you the excitement of discovery. I think that, you know, Izan and Philip have just done this amazing job. Last night I applauded Claudia just for, you know, really just doing great things here. And, you know, to ASA, to OHB, to Airbus, to the state of the city of Bremen. No, it is a state. It's the Hanseatic state of Bremen. Just, you know, congratulations to everybody. It's been a real joy, and I know you're going to have a great day tomorrow. So enjoy it, celebrate, and thank you. Of course, big thank you to our entrepreneurs.
Wow, so thanks for the great panel, guys. And I just want to say, for Disrupt Space, some of our main themes were being international, being interdisciplinary, and action-driven. So don't forget that there are still aspiring entrepreneurs working upstairs right now, and most of them will be working overnight, just in a location 50 meters away. So I think one thing that I want to highlight as well is not simply building networks for yourself, but the peer-to-peer mentorship. Because I'm sure everyone on this panel had peer-to-peer mentorship at one point that they considered incredibly valuable. So I'd just like to take this opportunity for all the startups here. If you have time, go up to the top, see what the aspiring entrepreneurs are doing, because at the end of the day, they might be doing what you're trying to do, and maybe even a little bit better. So just be careful. So thank you everyone on the panel. We just have some small gifts for everyone.